Folks, we have a lively debate planned here today. I want to introduce everybody that we've got on the panel here. We got Barry Swartz, the president of Rusty Brick, as well as owner and publisher of Search Engine Roundtable. We've got Melissa Pop, VP of Content Strategy and Innovation at Rickety Roo. We also have Grace Frolich, AI SEO Senior Manager over at Brain Labs, and yours truly, CEO over at Site Strategics, Edge Media Studios, as well as host of Edge of the Web Radio. Everybody, thanks for joining us in this final stage of our online conference, and it's going to be a fun debate, right?
Yeah.
I
disagree.
I
completely disagree.
Okay, Barry.
Early.
I'm going to have to argue there. All right, so here's our quandary here, right? We're going into 2026. Certainly, the strategies that we're going to have to adopt. We're certainly seeing the AI environment that we're in, and we're looking at what do we do with our investment in our efforts, right? Going into either an agency or we're working on behalf of clients. There's a lot to be done and some choices to be made. So first foremost, and I'm going to toss two individuals in the lineup here and give everybody a chance to be able to jump in there. So studies have shown big CTR drops when AI overviews, AI modes show up. Some analyses cite close to 61% organic click-through decline on information quiz. So in 2026, what replaces get the click as the North Star? Is it a mention, link presence in AI answers, and lift, or something else? I'm going to go to Barry first because I want to hear his stance there.
So what replaces it? Yeah, I mean, so everybody in the SEO space is basically saying, even the Google and Bing space, like if you work for those companies, impressions, mentions, brand mentions, all of that replaces the actual click, which is kind of upsetting. We're going back to like newspaper advertising or radio ads or billboards. Like these are the amount of people that potentially could buy it and potentially see your stuff, but we don't know if they're actually calling you or if they're clicking on you from that paper ad because there's no way to track it. So that's what we're kind of going back to, is those brand mentions and impressions that you might get from it, which is sad.
It's almost the billboard of sorts nowadays. Melissa, what are your thoughts there?
I thought I was going to disagree with Barry right off the bat, but no, I agree with exactly. Brand mentions have always been important even before we saw AI overviews and the rise of LLMs. A lot of brands kind of slept on focusing on that instead of focusing on other areas of marketing to drive organic to their websites, right? So I think brand just becomes so important. I know Morty Oberstein's cheering me on right now saying that. But yeah, brand mentions and impressions are just going to become so much more important and so much more clarifying as we report to our clients and in-house.
And the measurement tools to be able to see that brand visibility as well. Grace, I'll toss it to you. What are your thoughts about this?
Thanks, Aaron. I am leaning more towards what Melissa said, but I also want to make it known that I don't like that concept of North Star metrics. Don't think we as SEOs should only look at traffic, just even before AI search. It's very narrow, like a narrow scope of how you should view your data. I think it makes more sense to view multiple metrics, look at your data from all different views. So yeah, that's why I kind of lean towards, well, you can look at traffic, but you should also look at other things. Specifically for AI search, what we're doing at Brain Labs is we're looking at AI visibility share of voice. For an example, how often is our client's brand showing up in AI overviews? Not just like referral traffic from there, but actually like you said, brand mentions. We also look at conversions, revenue. I mean, we should always be doing that anyway for organic, but it's even more important now than ever to keep a closer eye on conversions and, use that as, I guess, if you want to say North Star, you can say it, but a portion of the whole, really.
It's really, conventionally speaking, we should be harkening back to those 12 points of contact with a consumer before they actually become a customer, right? And where would they see us? And I mean, That's why in retail marketing, you've got brand right there at the traffic flow of the entryway of a store that you're coming into. Brand placement is incredibly important, and not to harken back to days of the Mad Men, right? But this is still our space where we have to position the brand on the intent funnel, and we should never be wholly focused on the traffic as that North Star. Completely agree with you. All right, so yeah, positing the hypothesis here. Okay, here's the example. Assume I hand you $10,000 for multi-engine visibility. How would you divide it across Google's AI mode optimization, classic SEO, digital PR, citations, and social discovery, creator work like TikTok or short form that seeds signals? What would be your balance of investment there, and why that mix in 2026, if that is the mix? So I'll go to Grace first.
You're assuming that I think you're assuming a lot of things. These sit within different channels or different
Right.
teams. So I guess with that assumption, I mean, obviously being an SEO, I'm going to say majority of that should go to SEO, right? It's not. I'm biased.
You just pull the entire budget over. All right.
Yeah, it's like give it all to us. We know what to do with it. So I would say definitely majority of that should go to SEO still. We've seen from today's presentations, everyone has been talking about, yeah, SEO still matters. It's not dead, specifically technical SEO, content, those kind of things. So, making my case, the majority should still go to SEO. But with AI in mind as well, AI search is not its separate channel, at least not yet. It's really been
It's a synthesis.
yeah, exactly. It's kind of like, well, I guess the SEO team should handle AI as well. So we're happy to do that, definitely.
So Grace put all the chips on SEO.
Yeah. I mean, not saying that social and other channels don't matter, but again, like I'm biased. Like I think the majority should go to SEO.
Roger that, Melissa. What about your thoughts around where you should stack the chips on the roulette board?
Well, this isn't going to surprise anybody, and least of all Grace. I think your majority of your budget is still going to go into your content creation. I've said it 100 times this year that I believe AI mode, LMs, whatever answer engine that you're looking at is going to become our new top of the funnel. And the most important part of being seen at the top of the funnel when people aren't ready to click, buy, whatever you're trying to get them to do, is to remember who you are with a strong brand presence, building trust right from the get-go. And whether that happens with an AI overview that pops up, or you surfacing in an LLM, investing in content that is going to be seen in these different places, not just organically, not just on social, not anywhere else you might be pushing it out, to me is still the most important and often still the most neglected part of our marketing, regardless of channel that you're going all in on. And trust me, I'm a big fan of SEO, and like Grace, I believe right now, this is an evolution and a synthesis. Oh my gosh, I cannot say that word today. Y'all know what I mean though, of what we're already doing with SEO and evolving that, right? So to me, it starts with content, having high quality content that's answering questions right to the point, building that trust. That's still where all my chips fall when it comes to budget allocation.
All right, Barry, we know that you proclaim not to be a SEO, you just play one on TV, right?
I write a lot of content, so I'm going to take the content play. Just give me your money. Not that I write content for other people, but I'll take your money, and you could sponsor my videos and do YouTube stuff. You could diversify and not put all your money into one place like SEO or email marketing or GEO or display ads and so forth. Put it into everything. Wherever your content you create, it shouldn't just go one place. It should go everywhere, especially this podcast.
Absolutely. All right, I'll take a swing at this as well. I'm really leaning into the multimodal. I'm really leaning into the video content, short form content, illustrative content that answers a question or a very small series of questions, and getting that into the carousels, because we're seeing these videos come up in the AI overview more and more, right? But I'm also going to put my chips on the user experience improvements of a website. If I had the budget to be able to really focus on what we're doing with the consumer when they're coming in, because if we didn't have that focus before, it's incredibly important to make sure that we know who they are, what they're looking for, and be able to adjust that user experience accordingly. If I was to split that budget, SEO is still incredibly valuable, but if I'm going to push into something that I think is going to attract attention with that $10,000 budget, I'd stack it on video and user, but I'm also biased as well, as you can tell, right? So there's that. Another question here: AI mode's deep search can browse hundreds of sites and generate fully cited synthesis. Does that push you towards original data, methodologies, or entity-rich resources over volume publishing? And Barry, you hit volume publishing daily, right? What's a minimum asset to be a site-worthy asset? What do you guys think about this? Melissa first.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with everything I encourage clients to do. It's any sort of original research, original point of thought, story they can tell, anything that's new, different, valuable should be added to every piece of content. I firmly believe no matter what type of content, whatever niche, you can find that value. Of course, depending on your brand, depending on your company, your assets you already have could be valuable and you're not using them. And that's something that you should be auditing, integrating, and figuring out how to use. But on the flip side, everyone has a story, everyone has a data point. They may not necessarily be thinking about it actively as they're looking at their marketing, but it's there. And it's part of our jobs is to dig and find that and leverage that. And so I think the more we can find ways to improve originality in content versus strictly just, old school, we have a list of 50 keywords. We need to write a piece of content for every single one of those keywords to rank. I think once we shift from that type of publishing to creating more original content, LLMs, Google, everybody is going to surface this more. And it's just going to continue to be site worthy in these engines.
Very good. Grace, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously agree with Melissa. Yeah, everything she says is brilliant. But I also want to add that I think we need to kind of change our messaging in terms of how we communicate that. I'm coming from the perspective of like agency, right? So, a lot of our clients care more about quantity. Historically, they
Right,
have.
right.
And it's really we're working towards like shifting that conversation to like, well, now with AI search, originality and point of view matter more. But I do think it's going to be a slow process for sure. Like anything, like people hate change. So it's going to be a slow transition, but I think that it's definitely worthwhile to do that.
I think it raises a really good point there, is that from an agency mindset, right? There's a lot of clients that won't dare to actually move into a new channel. They're reticent. They're gun shy of what it might require of them, right?
Yep.
To be able to create content in different areas, especially if you've got, mid to small size clients. Their budget is as important as everybody else's, and they don't have the dollars to be able to put to creator content to really move the needle, so to speak. So I think part of the budget is having to kind of lean into where they're comfortable, but also what's going to be the most valuable execution for what they can do if you're actually pulling it from the client itself. Barry, what are your thoughts about the methodologies here and creating citation worthy content?
So I disagree with everybody just because why not? This is supposed to fight and debate. And if I was AI, I could just ask why I should disagree and I'll just get you a response. But I also
running right here. So, okay, gotcha. Go ahead.
I actually also like change, so I disagree with you in that. I'll just keep disagreeing. Anyway, I do think we're all doomed. I used to think that maybe the only way to compete with AI is really like being entertaining. Sora launched, and that's pretty entertaining, even though it looks fake, but it'll get better. I don't think originality is enough because I think the AI could come up with stuff as well at some point by unless you have your own data, fine, but what most of us do, so you have your own data, fine. You can't get that from other places unless you start using AI to process your data to come up with that originality, which is going to happen. So I think assuming the AI could poll your audience, like what's to stop an AI bot from posting on LinkedIn saying, what are your thoughts on this? And then I think eventually AI could easily do what I do. I mean, John Mueller said this, or Gary said that, or this podcast said this, or Google blog post said that. I'm pretty much done, which is fine. I have enough gray hair, so it doesn't make a difference, but I like change, so we'll see what happens. But
de facto, they're de facto Morty overseeing Wrangler now. AI will never be able to handle that. You realize that now.
I think
the torch has been passed to you.
I guess, but Morty's easy to wrangle. He's not, so that hard. You can tell him I said so. So I think
anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Even the dumbest AI bots can handle Morty, I think. So
All right, that's gonna be all right. That's my new ringtone. Okay, continue
yeah.
your thought there, though.
I mean, I think it's going to be a big challenge. I don't think it's happening tomorrow. I
Mhm.
think it's going to happen over time. I think we're in trouble. I think, yeah, I don't know. I think we're in big trouble.
Did we all have a round of this? I think so.
Yeah, but
Melissa,
I want to
oh,
interject.
hit us.
I do want to interject. I see your point, Barry. It's a bit pessimistic for me, to be honest.
Have you met Barry before?
Well, in passing, but I think that's assuming that AI search isn't going to change at all, or like the regulations around AI search aren't going to change. But I think it will. And I think that, just like Lily said in her presentation today, it might work now, like spamming might work now, but it's not always going to work probably. So I do think it's going to evolve as AI search evolves, the regulations around it will evolve. There'll be guardrails put up. Who knows what that's going to look like? But again, like I'm taking the more optimistic view, I guess.
This is my disagreeing face. I mean, just historically, if you look at it, like we're in a similar situation we were when Google started to launch their Google News stuff and other features where publishers were like, no, we don't. This is horrible. You're taking our content, using our snippets. Some governments tried. I forgot. Like several governments tried to block it, and Google's like, all right, we'll take it down. And then those governments like, all right, after 6 months, we want to come back in. We were wrong. I don't think the government regulations will work. The U.S. definitely it won't happen. I think in the EU, something will happen, and then Google will be like, no, fine, we won't take your content. That's up to you. I think Google's in such a strong space. I don't think it's right. I think they're obviously their monopoly. They rule the monopoly, but I think they're in such a position where they just, I hope there's regulation that pushes Google to feed the publishers, but I don't see that happening based on what has happened with original search, changes to search over the years. And yeah, I think what we're seeing now with AI overviews, AI mode, all that stuff is going to change. But I think the consumer, meaning the searcher, and no offense to people who are searchers here, are becoming lazier and lazier and lazier, and they just want to get the answers. And Google knows that's the future. And Google has to deliver on that, or else OpenAI will, or Perplexity. And if Google doesn't do that, no matter how many lawsuits they get, and they have so much money and cash sitting around, and they keep making more piles of cash all the time, they can pay for it. I don't think Perplexity can handle all the lawsuits. I think OpenAI can for a long period of time because they have tons and tons of venture capital. But I don't think Perplexity is at the same level as OpenAI, and nobody's at the same level as Google. Nobody has the cash that Google does, and the infrastructure, and the ad network, and all this other stuff. So I think Google ultimately will do whatever they think searchers want, even if it hurts the ecosystem, even though they know they need the ecosystem, but they need to win in this phase, or else somebody else will do it. That's my pessimistic view.
All right. I'm going to argue with you a little bit here on this, Barry, because I think one thing in particular that we're not accommodating for is the consumer and how they are going to be jaded with just an AI answer. Everything's getting polished so much that consumer pushback will happen that they just can't be fed these AI Pez pieces all the time without really looking at the authenticity and kind of pushing back. So possibly looking at different platforms where authenticity is going to be more valued as opposed to the AI generated, synthesized, and homogenized answer. It could very well be a win for marketers long term.
I did preference that by saying the most lazy searchers, and that's what people are becoming lazier and lazier, and they don't care. They just read it and believe it, and they move on. How many people have told you, I read this on an AI overview, I read this in OpenAI, and you know that topic so well because it's your expert area? I'm like, that's completely wrong. I don't care. That's what it says. I'm going to go by it. And people are just like when they scroll through Instagram, and they see some person post a video or something, and that's what they're going to go by because that's the new world.
It's also in schools. And honestly, that's a whole nother discussion in its own right, because AI overviews are being used as citable sources in school papers. And what a terrible, terrible thing that is. All right. So anything else on that topic real quick? I got a couple more questions before we're off. Nope. All right. So here's a interesting concept here. Do we centralize budgets for SEO, digital PR, social content under one visibility team? Or do we keep them separate? Grace, what do you think?
What should I mean, ideally, yeah. And I'll explain why I think this way. So I helped pioneer at Brain Labs a framework called the Customer Journey Framework that basically takes a bunch of data and organizes it into one like customer journey for search. So what that journey looks like, it's not just about organic search or search on Google. It also includes search on like social platforms. And of course, now we're evolving that into, search for a search into that customer journey. So with that in mind, I do think that it's going that direction, because once we need to understand our customer's journey, right? Because as we know, searchers, our behavior is changing. Like we've seen that from like just reading or looking online, or even like presentations from today are saying like search is changing, search behavior is changing. People don't just go on Google. They go, they do discovery on social, discover new brands on social, and or AI search on LLMs. It's non-linear. So I think understanding that means that yes, we should be looking at it actually from like overall visibility across the entire journey. I know that was a lot. I threw a lot out.
So having a framework that all the different teams actually adhere to, but have their own siloed practices, right? Is what you're saying here?
So I'm saying it shouldn't be siloed, because that journey is like continuous, but like each channel feeds in at different points of that journey. I hope that clarifies it. So,
does. It does.
social, it's like beginning stages of the journey, like social discovery, brand discovery happens more on social, probably. And then, people do their research on either AI search, LLMs, even Google, like they do that whole middle section of research there. And then bottom funnel, depending on what it is, like what the transaction is, it's going to be on Google. It's going to be, actually, I don't even know if AI search has bottom funnel transactions yet, but it might.
Probably more the consideration stage. I mean, there's a deep dialogue that we can't see. Melissa, what are your thoughts? Should we be in a department mindset or a visibility department?
I really think it comes down to what your budget is. A company that spends $1 million a year on marketing is going to operate a lot differently than a client who's spending, $3-5 grand a month, right?
Yep.
So
absolutely.
I am a big believer in centralizing budgets, regardless of that scale. Of course, you don't always have control over what that looks like depending on the clients you're working with. But the idea is we're all trying to make money ourselves, and by virtue of making money for our clients, right? So if we're running from one marketing playbook and what our end goal is, whatever that might be for our clients, it makes sense to use that playbook as your guardrail to centralize that budget. And, as things change, right now I'm watching companies spend tens of thousands of dollars a month going all in on AIO, GEO, whatever we're going to call it. I don't really care what we call it.
Let's just call it EIO and just be done with it.
Exactly. We'll have a song and everything. And so it's like, we're going to shift these budgets around regardless of where that end goal is. But starting from a central bucket, we can then month to month, quarter to quarter, change up what we're doing as things are shifting, which we see daily now with AI and what we're doing. It's hard to keep up. It's hard to pivot those strategies as well. So if you are working from one bucket, it makes sense to start there and then pivot as you need to.
Very good. I appreciate that thought. Barry, thoughts on the matter?
I mean, I agree with it all. The question is like, are the AI results going to be, the last, like the end purchase, the bottom of the funnel and I think they're trying with the agentic experiences where we could buy it from you and so forth. And I think they're all rushing to that to see how people adapt to that. So it will be interesting, but yeah, I agree with her. I said here, no, I'm not going to argue. I did enough of that earlier.
Folks, we're still talking about 0.2% of traffic coming to these sites, right? Now, at the same time, is AI and AIO and all the different experiences blocking consumers from interacting with the websites? Yeah, we're seeing that. But at the same time, isn't the traffic that we're getting more valuable than some of that loose top of the funnel query, right? Yeah. Possibly.
Yeah,
I
think
the AI companies want you to think that like we're sending you the most valuable stuff. I don't know. I saw some guy post on LinkedIn who's from I forgot where it was. He's like, yeah, well, some people have conversion rates of like 1%. We've seen as high as like 70% conversion rates. I'm like, come on. I don't know.
On 3 visits from your Chat GPT referrals. Yeah, no problem. No problem there. All right. So one more question here, and I'll want to pivot over to a couple questions in the audience. Should teams invest more in human written content, and where can AI responsibly accelerate creation? So we're talking about budgets. Got to ask, where does AI creation come in for both the website and socials without hurting selection, credibility, or brand voice? Grace, I'll throw it to you again.
I think it's like most things, you get what you pay for. AI content is cheaper, but it's also not as
Have you seen
speaking.
some of Barry's videos here recently? They're incredible.
Sigh. So, Melissa actually did a really awesome talk in the Women in Tech SEO conference a couple months back about how to basically use AI to write good content. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like just putting in like a few sentence prompts, write this
Right.
content, boom, AI slop.
Right.
So however you use AI, it definitely needs to have a human reviewer or editor, for example. But I also think that, again, AI is like, it generates content, but it doesn't yet have original thought. And that's what's missing. With humans, that's the advantage and the value you get from human writers. So that, yeah,
Absolutely.
I'll leave it at that.
Melissa, any thoughts about the balance of human written content in production compared to AI acceleration? As we're talking about investments, if we were still investing that $10,000, should we be going all in on human given the environment they're in?
It's a balance. And as Grace said, I spoke in Philadelphia a couple months ago talking about this balance of where do humans come in? How much do we trust AI with what we're doing? I've made it no secret that part of my primary job at Ricky DeRue is to find ways to leverage AI to improve efficiency on content, but not content that sucks, because I would rather quit my career and just walk away right now if that's what we were trying to do. And as Grace said, there's so much AI slop that's being put out there. Go on LinkedIn and look at someone's, who knows what SEMrush screenshot it is, talking about how they posted 100 pages in a month and that graph is going up, and you have no idea if that's true or false because nobody wants to actually share real data, because if they did, you'd see how much they actually suck at what they're doing versus what the guy is doing. And so for me, it's a balance, and that balance is going to look different depending on the niche and the subject matter. I've worked with clients in the home services industries where, there's nothing new about plumbing. AI can figure out how to write about plumbing. There's no problems there. But then I've worked in the health and medical fields and worked with companies trying to figure out how to improve efficiency in content creation in niches that have so much regulation, who need credentialed reviewers to go through point by point to make sure that they're not only not misinforming their audience, but getting themselves in trouble with governmental agencies. So really finding that balance. I am a firm believer that at some point here, AI will replace human writers. It's not today, it's not tomorrow, but at some point, this is going to be one of the quickest fields in our industry, just kind of like what we're seeing with web development as well, that is going to start going under. And for me, as a content strategist at heart and a writer at heart, my job is to figure out, how do I not lose my job and my team's job by merging these two things? And so I do think it's something that every company needs to look at, because the reality is, whether you're hiring an agency, a freelancer, or whatever, if they're not using AI to try to figure some of these things out, they are behind. And if they can figure out what works and what doesn't, you may be putting up more money up front to figure those things out, but you're going to save more money down the line and not run into as many problems with just putting out AI slop.
No AI slop. I mean, let's have it as bumper stickers, right?
Yeah, gonna get that.
Barry, thoughts on tattoo across it? Barry, thoughts about human content, investing in human content, and any investment on AI tools to accelerate publishing and content creation? Thoughts?
It's the same thing everybody's saying. The only difference is that I'm looking forward to losing my job from AI. So that's the only difference. I mean, like you said, it's going to get better and better and better, and eventually it will replace everything and everybody. So we're all doomed. The question is, how soon?
Fantastic. With that perspective, I'm going to pivot over to a couple questions here from our audience here before we sign off. Where do you see the biggest hidden costs, things teams will underfund now but regret in 12 months? Grace, I'll toss it to you again, because that's the pattern I'm going.
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think from my own experience is like data, like reporting, measurement, data, like everything. I do think that, as we know, data is really important to make good decisions on everything, especially like search. I know that now our data may not be the most accurate, trustworthy, especially like AI search data, but it's still important. And I do see that teams aren't necessarily properly trained, or they don't have the right tools to access that data. So yeah, I think I'm going to go with that answer.
Data and reporting. What's going to be underinvested that people are going to regret, teams are going to regret in 12 months, Melissa?
Without stealing Grace's thunder, I do agree in data and reporting. What metrics we're using for success is changing, whether we want it to or not. And understanding how that's changing now, just like how search intent is changing, is going to be critical to be able to prove budget allocations, getting more budget, keeping your job, frankly, with your clients. And so I do think that is going to be something underfunded. And frankly, that's something that's underfunded for most companies in general. This isn't new just because AI is rolling out and taking market share from channels. But beyond that, I'm going to harp again on, it's going to be content. This is another corner that most companies have always cut on, regardless of using AI or not. They're just finding another way to do it. And so I think that this potentially could be the time that actually matters the most, to not cut those corners and ensure that you're creating good, solid content, whether you're trying to use AI to do it or you're still 100% invested in your human writers.
Yeah, I'm going to agree.
Right.
I mean, the data thing, like I was going to say, it's not new. It's one of the most underfunded things for centuries now. And it's mostly the bigger companies are doing it. The really big companies are doing it. Some of those big companies don't know what to do with it and so forth. The small players are not doing anything with their data or even storing them, which is hard. But in general, I'm going to go with those that are like, basically saying, I am not going to use AI. I mean, the people are like saying, I'm not using it, period. I don't care how much you hate AI or, it's going to take over everything you do and probably kill you in the future. You still need to spend money, use it, try it out, try it in specific situations where you think it might help you or think it might hurt you. Spend some of your money and time on that, on using the AI that you hate so much, so that you can be friends with your enemy and be able to like see where everything's going in the future.
Are people saying that? Sorry. Are people not using AI?
Yes.
People are not using it.
Yeah. I work with writers who are absolutely against using it in any way, shape, or form. And I spend a good deal of my time working with people on just the educational component of why AI matters, why the good, bad, and ugly, the evil aspects of it. Yeah, no, there are still a lot of people out there who are incredibly skeptical of trying to figure out how to use it, not just for work, but just using it in general to see how it integrates into how they're already searching and how they have been searching for over a decade. Yeah, it's wild how many people I still run into this way.
We got to be friends with Skynet while we still have time, right?
Yes. Remember your pleases and thank yous.
Yeah, absolutely. I do think I regret that teams will have 12 months from now, if they don't invest, is going to be video content. I think it's huge. Short form content is an area that I think teams should adopt and adapt to and be able to curate from that effort into all different areas of channels that they can move that content into. So I think that would be a regret that they have. Last question from the audience here. How do you justify budget allocation when attribution models can't reliably tell you which search engine actually drove the conversion? I think we're talking about the same thing here, but can you even make budget allocations if you can't attribute? Well, yeah, we can, because there's visibility there. And either it's conversion, attribution, or not, you still have tools to be able to measure visibility, brand, and share of voice, like you're talking about, Grace, in these different platforms. So you have to change your KPIs to adapt to where we are now. Melissa, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. We're not just seeing a shift in how people are searching and what that looks like, but it's also how we're reporting, how we're setting KPIs. There are so many old school KPIs that I can't tell you how many clients I work with that come in and it's the same set. It's almost like night and day, boom, 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 here you go, same set. And so this is another mindset that we have to change and educate our clients on, because again, if we're as the experts having trouble attributing, right? Why on earth would our clients understand any of that either? So this goes back to I'm huge on education, especially right now in this kind of era we're in. And I think, helping your clients, it's not always our jobs to necessarily define and set the KPIs that they want to track internally, but I think working with them and helping them understand what AI visibility looks like, what tools out there can and can't do, and what they can show, and measuring that differently than we have before, and then encouraging our clients to look at it that way is the way to go.
Absolutely. Great. So to give you a swing at it.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I think teachers make the best SEOs. Like, if you're a teacher and you want to switch careers, looking into SEO, because we're teaching people all the time, and the material is always changing.
Amen to that.
Yeah, 100%. I do, in terms of attribution, again, I don't think this is a new, like, I remember when, it was really hard to attribute paid versus organic attribution sometimes.
Let alone the multi-touch point and
Yeah,
first
yeah,
touch and last touch attribution, or
exactly.
now in GA4 we're having later touch conversion points, right?
Yeah,
So it's the same thing. It's not.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's just a, same problem, different day, I guess, different era.
Well,
Yeah.
it's tough to put attribution against the billboard sign on the highway, right?
Yep.
Well, let's kind of look at it this way. Barry, I'll give you the final word on doom and gloom for 2026.
Is that a new question, or should I answer that question?
Answer the other question first.
I was going to say have AI figure it all out. Whatever. I mean, how do I do this? And just tell your client. I don't know. I don't really deal with budgets, so it's not my problem. And then the doom and gloom on 2026. It's just going to get worse. Honestly, it's going to get worse and worse and worse over this year. It will get better eventually, but I think it was hard at the end of this year. It's going to get a lot worse. Have a great 2026.
I'm going to debate you. I'm going to disagree. It's going to be fantastic, and
no,
we're all going to come up.
Horrible. We're done.
All right, folks. Thanks so much for your time and participation of this semi-debate, semi-panel discussion. I really do appreciate everybody's time and investment, and we'll look forward to hearing from budget allocations in 2026. Right? All right. We'll wrap up here. I want to make sure that you follow SE Ranking on their social channels over LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X/Twitter, because I'm going to keep on saying that because I hated the brand change. Along with that, hey, we want to make sure that you watch this show, share this show as well with friends and family. Well, maybe not family because they just won't get it, but share with your colleagues, and any of the presentations that we've gone through today, make sure that you've got a link to that. You can always share the YouTube channel to that particular presentation as well. So from all of us over at Edge of the Web, as well as SE Ranking, we appreciate everybody's attention and listening through the last 3.5 hours here. Make sure that you go into 2026 with lots of great thoughts on strategy as well as attribution, and do not be as piece of cyber driftwood as we sign off here over at Edge of the Web all the time. Thanks so much for listening.